Alright guys, hey, it's the drill. Me again. Today I have written a Izuku Midoriya, aka Deku X listener, and the story name is Happily Ever After. So, I don't really know where to categorize this as wholesome or what, but you guys can decide that on your own. Anyway, so let's get started, shall we? You had met Izuku through Ochako. You were Ochako's younger cousin, so it was only customary for you to meet her boyfriend. You were exactly 1 year younger and had a quirk similar to Ochako's, only it was the opposite. While she could make things have zero gravity, you could make objects have a lot more gravity than before, making the object get pushed down into the ground, becoming crushed completely by the gravitational weight. You were also planning on going to UA to become a hero, but your reasons were much more noble than Ochako's reason. Your reason for wanting to become a hero was that your parents wanted you to become one. It was their last wish before they died. Ochako had brought Izuku over for dinner one night, and you were completely taken aback by this boy. He had vibrant green eyes, a mess of green hair, and a load of adorable freckles that adorned his face. He was shy or nervous, maybe both. You stared at him for a little too long at one point, and Ochako caught you. "Do you have something that you want to say, little cousin?" You shook your head vigorously, and you all went back to eating. After dinner, you took all the plates to the sink and started washing them. About halfway through, Izuku walked in shyly. Do you mind if I get a glass of water?" You were about to tell him that you didn't mind, but Izuku continued. It's all right if you do mind. I'd understand completely. It's only a glass of water, but for all I could know, it could mean a lot more to you," and you cut him off by putting up your hand. He clamped his mouth shut, and you lightly chuckled. "You may get a glass of water, Izuku. It's fine." He nodded his head and blushed from embarrassment. "Thanks." He filled a glass of water and was about to walk out, but stopped and turned back to you. "Listener, if you don't mind me asking, what is your quirk?" You shrugged your shoulders, going back to the dishes. "I don't remember what it's called, but it's the exact opposite of Ochako's. I can crush things pretty easily with gravity." Izuku nodded his head and walked back out to the living room where everyone else was. You got done, but were already tired and not in the social mood. You walked out of the living room. "Good night." They all ignored you, as usual, but before you closed your door, you heard Izuku yell out, "Good night, listener." You smiled softly and got ready for bed. Before going to bed every night, you made a wish to the moon. You looked up at the full moon and smiled sweetly as you made your wish up to the bright moon. You walked to your bed and laid down, falling asleep after staring at your ceiling for a while. 1 year later, you had gotten into UA, and your future was looking bright. The UA Sports Festival was coming up, and you planned to win it, so you trained hard. While training, you unlocked a new skill. You didn't even have to touch the objects anymore. You could just look at them. Your teachers and classmates praised you for this newfound ability, and so did your aunt and uncle. When they heard about it, Ochako, on the other hand, was slightly jealous. She still had to use her hands for her tasks, and wasn't even sure if the ability was an option for her quirk. Izuku and you had become close friends and even trained a little together. Izuku was a friend, and you thought that was enough, but your heart thought otherwise. You knew that it was wrong to like him, but not only did he have a girlfriend, but his girlfriend was your older cousin. You tried to push Izuku out of your mind, but by training harder and doing extra credit work all the time, which gave you phenomenal grades, surpassing anything that your cousin ever had. Ochako started to get frustrated with all the praise that you were receiving from her parents. She started to think that you were doing all of this to show off that you were better than her. She tried to calm herself down, but jealousy got the best of her. One day during your sports festival training, you were facing a bunch of practice dummies when Ochako came up behind you and put all 5 fingers on your shoulder, activating her quirk. You started to float, and you panicked. You didn't scream, but you tried to grab onto something. It was too late, though. You were floating higher into the sky. You looked down at your cousin who was walking away. You felt your eyes begin to tear up. You trusted her. Why was she doing this? Right when you thought all hope was lost, you heard a couple of loud booms and then felt a pair of strong arms go around your waist. You opened your eyes and saw Katsuki Bakugo from Class 2A. He looked at you angrily and yelled, "How the hell did you get up here, you idiot? Isn't your quirk the opposite?" You nodded your head and he sighed annoyed. He got you to the ground and you stood there in shock, completely silent. Did your cousin just try to kill you? Katsuki was about to ask you something when Izuku came running up to you. "Listener, are you alright? I saw the whole thing, and I'm sorry that I couldn't help. I called Aizawa to come get you, but I guess Kachan got there first." Right after Izuku said that, Mr. Aizawa appeared running into the training grounds, but stopped, seeing that you weren't floating. "What happened?" Izuku looked at Aizawa and explained everything to him. Aizawa looked shocked. "She could get expelled for this." You felt a sudden panic come over you. "No, please don't expel my cousin. I'm sure that there is a reason for what she did." Aizawa studied you for a moment and sighed. "I'll think about it, but I have to go and talk to her first. If she can come up with some kind of an acceptable reason, then she can continue her schooling here at UA." He walked off, and only you, Katsuki, and Izuku were left. Katsuki glared at Izuku. "You damn Deku! They could have died, and all you did was call Aizawa?" Izuku sighed. "I know, Kachan. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Ochako was my girlfriend." He looked up at Izuku, and Katsuki made the same noise at once. "Huh?" Izuku gritted his teeth. "I might have dated Ochako for a while, but what she did was unforgivable. You're my friend, listener, and I care for you. She's been venting to me about how jealous she is over your success in UA." You put your index and middle fingers on your temples. Katsuki scoffed and stormed off without another word. You realized that you hadn't thanked him, but you had a feeling that's not why he was walking off. Izuku and you stood in silence before you cleared your throat. "I've gotta go back to training." He nodded and walked away. You trained for a few more hours, then went to your dorm room. You flopped on your bed and peered at the calendar. 3 more days until the sports festival. You groaned, turning on your back. You still hadn't found a way to not completely crush the opponent. You nodded your head, deciding to ask Aizawa for help. You groaned as you got up and put on your sleepwear. You brushed your teeth, then went and did your hair. You flopped back onto the bed and went to sleep. You woke up and took a shower as usual. You got dressed and walked to your class 30 minutes earlier than everybody else, as usual. You sat down in your seat. 5 minutes later, Aizawa walked in. You gathered your courage and walked up to him. He looked at you with tired eyes. "What is it, listener?" You took a deep breath. "I need help with training my quirk. I can't use my quirk without completely crushing my opponent." He looked taken aback. "There's only 2 more days until the festival, and you tell me this now." He looked away nervously. "I'm a fast learner." Aizawa sighed. "Fine. I'll see what we can do about your little problem here. It'd be a lot easier than filling out injury reports at the hospital. Training grounds, 5 o'clock sharp, not a second late, or I'll just leave right there and then." He bowed gratefully. "Thank you, Sensei." He just waved you away. Yeah, go sit back down." You did so and sat there giddily. The whole day you looked forward to the training, and then it was time. You arrived 10 minutes early. Aizawa arrived shortly after. "You're here early." You nodded, and he pointed at the row of dummies. "Alright, the first one. Show me what you mean by completely crushing." You nodded and looked at the dummy. It started to fold in on itself from the pressure, and then it was crushed like a soda can. Aizawa blinked. "Alright, on the second dummy. Show me what you want to happen." You walked up to the dummy and picked it up. You walked to the other spot and made a line. You put the dummy on the other side of the line and knocked it down. I want that to happen, but my quirk only destroys things." Aizawa nodded. "I can work with this. You have the determination, and I can tell." You nodded your head and you started giving ideas of how to make it to where it wouldn't seriously hurt a student. You both decided that you would work towards putting gravitational pressure on the opponent and simply beat them barehanded while they had the weight bearing down on them. You both trained for hours and there was a sign on improvement. Aizawa nodded his head. Can't believe I'm saying this, but there might be a chance that we can pull this off. He patted your shoulder. Go and get some rest. We'll be training tomorrow morning also. He looked up at him. How early? He shrugged his shoulders. 4 a.m. Your eyes widened. Sure. You jogged over to the training grounds 15 minutes early the next morning. You yawned and stretched a little. You didn't want to get up at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, but you had to if you wanted to win the sports festival. After all, it was the next day. The clock turned 4, and Aizawa walked in. You got off the bench and walked towards him. What's first? Aizawa nodded towards a couple of dummies. Practicing what we decided on yesterday. He looked at them and started immediately. For the first 2 hours, your quirk kept crushing the dummies, but you didn't give up. You were extremely stubborn. You started to become even more tired, but then it happened. You did what you and Aizawa had planned. Aizawa looked up and silently gasped. You did it. He nearly jumped from joy, and Aizawa yelled, Finish the job, listener. You ran towards the dummy and threw it out of bounds, releasing your quirk long enough for only to fly out of bounds, and then you activated your quirk again. It fell to the ground harshly, but it didn't get crushed. You practiced that technique with the little time that you had left, and almost mastered it. After training, you sprinted to the locker room and changed quickly into your school uniform. You ran up to your class, and for the first time in your life, you weren't early. You took your seat and started jotting down notes on your technique improvement. After school, you walked to the training grounds and realized something. You never found out what happened to Ochako. You walked up to Aizawa. What happened to Ochako? Aizawa looked at you. I'm surprised that you haven't heard yet. I didn't expel her, but you gave her a restraining order that says she must stay 200 feet away from you. Her internships were also canceled. You flinched slightly. Isn't that a little too harsh? Aizawa scoffed. Hardly. She deserved a lot worse. She tried to kill you, listener. He sighed. Agree to disagree. You focused your attention on the dummies and started more training. After a few hours, it was an easy technique to use. You hugged Aizawa. Thank you so much, Sensei. He stood there like a boulder. You're welcome. You let him go and smiled. You ran back to your dorm room and called Izuku. He picked up after 2 rings. Hello? You nearly yelled, Hello! You're talking to the next UA Sports Festival winner. Izuku chuckled. Oh, really? You nodded your head. Yep, I got the technique that'll get me the gold. Really? What is it? You giggled. It's a surprise. Izuku laughed. Whatever you do or get, listener, it'll surprise me. You smiled like a dope. Well, prepare to be blown out of this world. You hung up and took a shower. After that, you got dressed. You looked up at the moon and sent out a little wish. The moon had never failed you before. You went to bed nearly shaking from excitement over tomorrow. You woke up and literally jumped out of bed. You quickly got ready and sprinted downstairs into the school building. Aizawa greeted you when he walked into the classroom. Everybody else came in. Aizawa took a quick attendance. Then he took all the students down to the training grounds. Everybody was already dressed. You felt pride welling up in you. The sports activities began, and you and your teams were always on top and went undefeated. Finally, the 1-versus-1 rounds began. Your first opponent was by far the hardest. He had a quirk that allowed him to transform his arms and legs into any object that he so desired. You had nearly crushed him 3 times before you could calm down and use the correct technique. And when you did, it was still difficult to beat him. He moved a lot slower, but he was incredibly strong. You finally got a good grip of him from behind and threw him. You unactivated your quirk long enough for him to go out of bounds, but then activated it again, just like in training. He fell face first on the ground and broke his nose from the impact. There was a couple more rounds, and then finally the last match. It was against a girl with a quirk that allowed her to grow her teeth, hair, nails, and bone to impressive lengths. She nearly beat you, but you came back on top by using her own quirk against her. When she grew her hair and tried to tie you up with it, you weighed it down, which made her trip and fall. You grabbed her hair and flung her out of bounds. You had done it. You had won first place in the UA Sports Festival. You fell down on your knees and lifted your face to the sky. Everybody's cheers were loud enough that it made your ears ring, but you ignored them. You looked straight into the sun silently and thanked those who had helped you get to that point. When you were being rewarded the gold medal from Endeavor, he congratulated you on being the first student in UA Sports Festival history to have an undefeated streak. You smiled and thanked him. When you walked to the locker rooms, you slumped down on the bench and then realized the exhaustion that you felt. You took a shower and slowly got dressed. You walked out of the locker room and the whole school was cheering for you. Wait. No, I read that right. Hang on. Yeah, that's what it says. Okay, anyway, so you noticed Katsuki in the crowd, and he gave you a small smile and a thumbs up, quick enough for only you to see. When you walked down a little bit more, you saw Izuku. You ran up to him and hugged him. And hugged him, nearly in tears. I told you that I was going to be the next one to win the gold. Izuku hugged you back. I never doubted you for a second, but even if you hadn't have won the gold, I would still be proud of you. Your smile brightened, and Izuku picked you up and spun you around a few times. He set you down and continued making your way, but a few steps before Izuku pulled you back to him and spun you around. You looked into his green eyes. What? He kissed you on the lips, and your eyes widened. He then let you go and ran away. You stood there stunned for a minute, and then turned around and started walking down the line of your schoolmates again. At the end of the line was Aizawa Sensei. He smiled at you, and you shook his hand. He scoffed playfully and hugged you. I remember that you enjoy hugs much more rather than handshakes. You hugged him back, and it gave you a sense of nostalgia. I think I said that right. Almost like hugging your dad. He let you go, and you walked back to your dorm room in a good mood. Your aunt and uncle called, and you nearly went deaf from how loud they were. They kept on congratulating you. You laughed and told them thank you. They talked about throwing a party, but you declined. You hung up the phone and got ready for bed. Instead of making a wish to the moon, you thanked it. You thanked it. I mean, you gotta thank the moon, guys. For the next 2 years of UA, you surpassed anyone's expectations of you and graduated with honors. An agency was already waiting for you after your graduation. You and Izuku had gotten married and become a power couple and stayed one for the next 80 years of life. You both died in each other's arms happily. In your final breath, you thanked the moon for granting your biggest wish. Your twins attended the funeral with your 6 grandchildren, 4 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild. You and Izuku had really lived an incredible life together. He was memorialized for being the number 1 hero, with you right by him in number 2. Ochako married a wealthy American businessman and lived the rest of her life happily before dying in the line of hero work at the age of 42. You all had left behind an amazing legacy, and it was truly a happily ever after. Alright guys, how did you like that? I personally had a struggle reading this, because I don't know why, but yeah, I kept on repeating things and made little comments, but there's nothing I can do about that now, and I hope you guys did enjoy this. So, yeah, see you guys next time. If you have any, suggestions, leave them down in the comments, like always. Bye!